and welcome back to part two of our interview. This is Metal with Robert Sarzo, the guitar player from Hurricane. Robert explained at the beginning of part one that he is still in Hurricane, so you can go back and check that out. Now, Robert, you wanted to pick it up the story up from there, so I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, no, I just wanted to also, because people are probably going to ask, well, why didn't Tony want to do the rock, the Rocktober Festival? He told me, and he had 8 weeks for the festival. It was around 8 or 9 weeks that the festival was going to happen. He said he had some gigs lined up with his tribute band for that weekend. So at that point, I'm like, okay, he's got his priorities, but I got my priorities. My priorities are with Hurricane.
Yeah.
My mom was in hospice. She was dying, and she died on Father's Day.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And she wanted me to go and see her more often. And my brother was her caregiver.
Sure.
He had her at home, and his wife. And it hurt to be to have to say, I have to finish the record and it's got to be delivered by a certain date, because the record company in England, and also the one in the United States, wanted the record to be completed, and then they would go ahead and do what they have to do by a certain date. And I did it. I did everything as I had to. It was all,
deadlines,
on the right date. But for not to be able to see my mom enough, right? So
that touched me right here.
I put my heart and soul into this record, and then someone says, "No, I'm not going to go and do that festival." Which it was 2 weeks after the record dropped, and the record's been selling out. So it's like, okay, just no, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that. Wow.
But I didn't leave Hurricane. I never said in any of the writings that I was parting way with Hurricane. Just Tony.
Yeah, interesting, because again, when I reached out to both you and him, because when you guys came on our show last time, you seemed like you were a very tight band. Seemed like you guys were the best friends, and as Tony said out of his own mouth during that interview, people can go back and watch it. That I hadn't seen or heard from Robert in about 20 years, but we touched base again after 20 years, and it was like everything was good, and that's how it seemed on the show. And when I reached out to him, I said, I read somewhere online that Robert's no longer, in the band. Again, his response was, well, we got some festival dates, and my brother Carlos is going to do those with us. And he actually, when I reached out to him and he gave me that statement, he said, actually, Robert's been out of the band for about 2 weeks. And so when I put an update on our site, I said, when Tony gave me the statement, he said that Robert's actually been out of the band for 2 weeks. So I guess I'm getting the news kind of late. I was joking about it, but so that's kind of what I was told in regards to that. But again, we're hearing it from you. So you're still going to, as you said at the top interview, you're going to still continue to go out and perform, I guess, with your version of Hurricane, and that if they want to do their version, that's fine. And you were explaining the reason the band is named Hurricane is because you're from Miami, right? And there's a lot of hurricanes there.
I grew up in Miami, and I went through a lot of hurricanes, and it's a big thing down there in Miami, hurricanes, and it's very powerful. I mean, it's scary also. To go through a hurricane.
It sounds like you've been through a lot of it, but do you have one particular one that you remember really, like, it was something you had to really deal with? It was like, have you ever had to deal with one of those hurricanes, like what you see on the news, where people's houses get ruined and stuff?
All the windows, had to be boarded up. Everything had to be boarded up, to protect yourself. Actually, the doors in Miami, if you notice, how the doors in other places, you open and you walk in and you push it in.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and down there in Florida, it's you pull out. Wow. And it's for the reason that the high winds, the hurricane, if it was going in, they'll just break the lock and just push the door right in. It's a big force. It's very powerful. But
like your music, right? That's why it's such a great name for the band,
Well, it's
Yeah,
got that the growl. You know, the old sound of Hurricane is that raw sound of just
yeah,
that, it comes from your hands.
yeah.
And it's been proven by a lot of guitar players. And I don't like to throw names and
Sure,
quotes of
sure. Yeah,
people have talked about, so I won't. But there's been, people on tour and the supporting act, is friends with the other guitar player in the headliner,
uh,
and the guy loves the way the other guitar players sound, and he tries the rig of the other guy, and it still sounds like the other guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not about the equipment, but it's the tone of
Yeah.
your compression and
Yes.
your vibe, your soul.
yeah,
Everything has a soul.
yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, this
Wow,
that's why
wow.
the
And
old
Robert,
Hurricane in this
yeah,
one
yeah.
sounds is still like the old one because
Well, Robert, my co-host Tom, he's a guitar player too. So Tom, I know you always love to ask people, especially guitar players when we have them on, stuff about their guitar playing stuff. So take it away.
Sure. The first thing I want to comment is he's right about the hands. It's in the hands. Ross the Boss from Man of War, him and I jammed together for years. We can play the same guitar and make it sound differently. And
Wow, wow.
we came to the tone was coming through our hands, and people would see that. And Ross has got a great tone like you do too. And I just love that when you were talking about that. People think it's the rig. You can play, same guy can plug into a rig and make it sound differently. And it's
Wow.
all with the technique and the hands and the tone he has.
yeah,
It's
it's
the way
very
you squeeze it, everything, absolutely. But so what kind of what do you actually play through? I mean, I have Marshalls, I play through. I'm still old school Marshalls and Stratocasters, things like that. What do you do? Any facts, anything like that?
well nowadays. I play the best tube amplifier in the world, and it's made in Italy. It's handcrafted. It's called Mesa Barba.
Mesa Baba.
Mesa Barba, look it up. And
Okay.
I endorse the M0100. And this thing is a beast. You can see the transformer.
I'm
It's
actually
like
gonna
a
write it down because I
Ferrari.
want to check that out.
Yeah, Mesa Barba M0100. It is intense. I'll be playing in big festivals.
M0100.
Yeah, the M0100.
Okay. Italian amp.
And if you Google with my name also, you'll come up. I take pictures
Okay.
when I'm playing it. But the harmonics, the tones are
Yeah,
just amazing. It's
yeah,
just that, you know, the cabinets are built like the old Marshalls. I used to own the original plexiglass
yeah.
Oh,
Marshalls.
nice.
So I know what they sound like, and I have recorded with them, and I've opened the cabinets, and my old Marshall had the 25-watt greenbacks.
The greenbacks. Okay.
And the reason they did that because of those amps had no master volume. So you
Yeah.
had to crank it up. So you were having to get the speaker, the Celestion speaker, to distort
Yeah.
because the head was so clean. So
Yeah.
I did an album in 1979 in New York City at the record plant with Jimmy Iovine, the producer,
Oh,
and
wow.
Tom and Shelly Yakus engineering it. These are guys that were doing, God, Tom Petty and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
name
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You name it, yeah, Jimmy Iovine. So I bring my old Marshall in there, and it was so damn loud that I had to had the guys at the record plant in New York City. They had a technical department,
Wow.
so they showed me how to put a master volume, and it's actually the master volume. You take the positive from the treble pot on an old Marshall, and that is the cutoff point from the preamp
Wow.
and the power amps, which is EL34. There's four of them. I had the Super Bass 100 head, so
Yep,
it was
I got one of
super
those.
clean, but
I
it
got
has,
one of those. Yep. I
yeah,
know.
but the harmonics was so good. So we were able to put the master volume, and I was able to use it on the record. But I got some great photographs that I can share someday with you.
Sure,
With these
yeah,
guys at the record plant. I did the album on Arista Records
yeah,
with Dio Byron, and
yeah.
then we toured opening up for Bob Seger. And ironically, the singer also wrote for the second album. He wrote "Shadows of the Night," the Pat Benatar, big hit song.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, so that was going to be in our second album. This is back in 79, 1980.
yeah.
So this is before Hurricane. I was in New York City, New Jersey.
Wow.
So yeah, so Marshall has always been my favorite. So the Mesa Barba is like the Marshall that should have been. You
Oh,
know,
should have been, yeah, I
it's
love
on,
it. Yeah.
it's on steroids, and right out of the box, you pull it out. It's like, damn, this thing sounds good. So it's really well known in Europe, and it's getting more popular here in the United States. But it's got some nice weight to it because
Nice.
it's a nice full size Marshall head, and the
Yeah.
cabinets are heavy because it's real solid wood. So my cabinet has also those greenback. I think they're the 30s, but you know, the specs are different than the original one from the
Sure,
60s.
sure.
But yeah, it sounds great. I love that. But you know, for fly rig, I can't bring that, obviously. So you have to get the backline, whatever they have available over there. But in the recording, I use small amps
Yeah. Oh,
because
wow.
I did all my guitar tracks except those two songs that I mentioned earlier. I recorded everything in my boat. I have a yacht.
Oh, wow.
It's all wood.
Yeah.
So, meaning the inside is wood, not the outside. The outside is fiberglass, but the inside, the walls, it's all, the floors are teak. So the sound in there sounds like a great recording studio. But I use little amplifiers. And I have the Cascade ribbon mic, which is a great microphone. It's a boutique mic that a lot of the guitar players in Nashville use. And then I use a vintage 57 short, and then I put them in a tiny little speaker, 6.5-inch speaker.
Yeah. Wow,
and I
wow.
find the sweet spot with vintage little pedals sometimes to get a little growl on it.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that's how I mic'd them up. I did a lot of experimenting, just getting it on the right side of the speaker.
Wow, wow, that's pretty impressive. Wow. Let me ask you, Robert. Robert. You living in Los Angeles, or are you still living in Miami these days?
Oh no, I've been in Los Angeles. I went from Miami in '75. My brother and we went up north in Utica, New York, and Albany to work.
I go to Utica all the time. I'm in Syracuse, New York.
Wow, wow.
I'm in Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse, okay, yeah.
I know Utica, absolutely.
Yeah, Utica, Albany. So we were there, and we left, and we were wearing, you know, like the Miami clothes, and we went up there. And it's like, damn, it's cold up here.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you, Robert.
But yeah, we went up there.
I was going to ask you.
What's
Speaking of Rudy, is Hurricane and Quite Right ever played shows together? Have you guys ever been on the same bill?
We never did shows together.
Wow.
You know, Kevin DeBro would come up on stage back in the day, you know, and sit in with us. But no, we never did any shows together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I got to ask you, Robert, because I always love like seeing photos of you. Your hat, it's kind of like iconic, like Slash's top hat. Talk a little bit about the hat, because it really works for you. It's kind of become your signature, if you will, as much as your guitar licks.
This hat is actually the voodoo hat.
Yeah, that's what okay, wow, I love
it. And when you're Cuban and you're raised around Cubans, there's traditions. Yeah. And if you follow the Lucumí religion, it goes back to Cuba. When Columbus landed in Cuba, I believe that he eliminated all the Indians. Yeah. And then he brought in slaves from Africa, and they brought in their religion and their beliefs, and voodoo was one of them.
Wow, I love it. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Things that they practice, and again, it's just it's a conscience. I have studied it, but then I have also studied other religions as well too, because I like to research. I like to create. And if you want to be a creator, you have to. You can't just close your eyes and just look at nothing. You got to read and you got to research, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I study. I see how it works, and it's very spiritual and it's very positive.
Yeah.
But that's the story with the hat. It's the voodoo hat.
It's cool. It gives you, I feel your personality coming out in it, but it's one of the things I always notice in your photos, and the hat really stands out. And it's, I don't know if anybody, I don't know if anybody told you, but it's so you, Robert. It just, I just had to ask about it,
I like wearing it, and it's great if you're having a a rough day with your hair.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Just, you go like,
There you go.
just
Hey,
throw the hat
there
on.
he is. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I like wearing hats. I mean, I
Yeah.
wear all kinds of other hats
Sure,
as
sure,
well too.
sure. Yeah. It's just something I've always
Yeah.
noticed. You wear a lot of hats. And I was curious, your brother, of course, played and was very close with Randy Rhoads. I was curious, did you ever get a chance to see them play together in Quiet Riot? Do you get a chance to meet Randy at all?
Not with Quiet Riot, because I stayed in New Jersey and
Uh,
then I started doing recordings, at the record plant with Jimmy Iovine and other projects. My brother asked me if I wanted to continue with him because we were together when we went up north. And I said, Rudy, I want to hang out in this area. I
yeah,
want to actually, like really dig into New York City and trying to get, some work out of New York. So he went out on the road with another band, and then he ended up in Los Angeles. So I met Randy when they played at the Capitol Theater,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
and it was with Ozzy.
Wow, wow. Yeah,
So I think my brother posted some of those pictures from the book. There's a picture
yeah,
of
yeah.
me and Ozzy, and I'm holding my Junior, my son. He was really young at the time, and with Randy. But what I remember from Randy was that he was like super, super nice,
Yeah.
down to earth
That's what
guy.
everybody says. Yeah,
So he was very excited because he knew I was a guitar player, and I had been touring, doing arenas with Bob Seger, supporting his Bob Seger, not playing in his band.
yeah.
And so I was really curious what he was playing with because at the
Sure.
time I was playing with a Les Paul and a Tele. So he showed me his Flying V and his pedals that he had all set up, and he was just really a genuine nice guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just hit it off, as people. And besides, he became my brother's best friend.
Sure.
So
That's
of
why I
course
asked.
there
Yeah.
was a connection there, like a family connection. So
Sure.
that was my time. I think I saw them twice. I saw them also in Asbury Park at the
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Civic. I think it was a Civic Hall down there.
yeah,
And so yeah, they sounded amazing. I mean, it was really a powerful sound.
yeah. Because my co-host Tom, he's a huge Randy fan. I mean, who isn't, right? And it's amazing that Randy has the legacy he does when you consider he just really has those two Aussie records. And I mean, look at how many people were influenced by that guy.
Oh, he influenced a lot of people, and gosh, I mean, can you imagine what else he could have done?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
I'm sure he had a lot more material, in his soul and his mind to write and create.
yeah.
So like, wow, what a shame.
And now let me ask you, because you kind of touched on this. I know you must get asked this a lot, but in regards to you and Rudy, you kind of explained why you guys kind of went your separate ways. But it's part of the reason also that maybe you guys really never did anything serious together because just the age difference, or maybe because you're in different types of music, or wanted kind of like not be in a band together.
Well, we grew up playing together. We
Okay.
did a lot of shows together, a lot of rehearsals together. I mean, a lot of shows. We would work 6 nights a week or 7 nights a week in
Yeah.
Florida. I started playing clubs when I was around, gosh, 14 years old.
Oh, wow, wow, you've been doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had my own car at 14 and a half, so I would drive around and I would form bands and get the guys together, and I had a van, and I would go around to the nightclubs and book the bands.
Yeah.
And I would type on an old typewriter. I would be like
Yeah.
typing, contracts, and
Yeah.
I was dealing with all these adults in the nightclubs in Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach and areas, and they must have looked at me and cracked up because I was just like 16, 17.
Oh, wow, wow.
Yeah.
And I got to tell people to go back and watch the first time Robert was on our show with the other Hurricane guys, because he tells a story in that interview of how he literally came this close to well, you actually got the gig almost as Ozzy's guitar player, but then it didn't quite work out. But I mean, can you imagine like coming that close?
Well, let me give you what really happened was that uh, Ozzy calls me in Sharon, and it flew me next day to Los Angeles. And I was here, which I live here now,
Yeah,
for I think a little bit over a week. And I was rehearsing with the band, learning the set.
yeah.
And Ozzy comes back from the David Letterman show, I think it was. Yeah, it was still in New York. Comes back, we run the set, and he goes, "You got the gig." And I'm like, and all
Wow.
I was doing was just, I just wanted them to get through what they had to,
Deal with Randy. Yeah.
they were committed to do shows. I was never looking at it like, oh wow, I'm gonna
Be the
replace
guy.
Randy.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother's best friend just died.
Yeah. So you can't be too happy about that. I understand. Yeah.
Everybody in the band was freaking out. So was I.
Yeah, of
The
course.
energy was so bizarre that was going on. So it, but I got hired to do, the rest of the tour. And I'm like, okay, well, they wanted to go to Trader Vic's after we rehearsed. And I told Ozzy and Sharon, I said, you know what? It sounds great, but maybe somebody can drop me, some more food in the hotel room. I wanted to, just working more on the songs.
Yeah.
So I stayed, and so next morning we're packing up. We're supposed to fly back to Jersey, which that's where I live in
Yeah.
Paramus, New Jersey. And Sharon tells me that the hotel that Bernie was, Terme,
Yeah. Yeah.
she didn't know he was there. And Don Arden told him, no, he's the one that's going to do the tour.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
poor guy didn't even get to rehearse
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
the band. So, uh, they paid my per diem, and I was like, you know,
And
it
then
is
he didn't
what it
last too
is,
long.
it's like,
Yeah. He didn't last too long. He ended up being replaced by Brad Gillis, anyways. Yeah.
so I got hired, and then I couldn't do the gig, and they weren't happy about it, but things happen for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. That's just part
That
of your
that's
story,
that's
Robert. Yeah.
exactly what happened. So it wasn't like I was really looking forward to having that gig, because
Yeah.
man, it was not a good vibe. I mean, it was really depressing,
Sure.
sad,
Sure.
very sad, very sad.
And like you said, maybe it worked out that way for a reason, in a good way for you, because Rudy ended up leaving, like you said, because it's very hard for him to deal with. He went back to Quiet Riot. I know, even Jakey Lee, as great a player as he was, all those years he was with Ozzy, people constantly giving him the finger. Jake sucks. Randy rules. Uh,
Oh,
so you can imagine what you might have had to deal with.
yeah, and Jakey, he did a great job with Ozzy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, all of them. Brad
Sure.
Gillis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was there at the Madison Square Garden with Bernie was performing, and I drove in and I drove with him out of the garden, and then I went and hung out with him at the Sharon's father's penthouse, and I got to talk a lot, to Ozzy
Yeah.
privately, also
Sure.
afterwards, and yeah, they were just going through a lot of tough time then. I
Sure.
mean, it was
Yeah.
the unknown
Yeah.
for many reasons, I mean, you lose your, amazing guitar player, and the guy that wrote the album
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
and then, a tragic
Tragic.
accident
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been really tough. And
Yeah.
my brother, I mean, that was his buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It became a brother, and to lose him. And so I just wanted to be there for my brother
Sure. Sure.
immediately, to, just,
To lean on, right? Yeah.
to help him out, spiritually. And yeah, but it must have been very hard for all of them.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure. Well, Robert, it's been great talking. Like Tom, I was telling him as we were getting ready to come back to do part two today that when he's ready to launch his new version of Hurricane, he's definitely welcome to come back anytime, and we'd love to have you introduce the new band whenever you're ready, Robert. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Sounds great. And yeah, I just want to let everybody know that my coffee brand, which, being Cuban, I grew up drinking coffee in my baby bottle, for real. And this is great coffee. I love it. It's from Writers and Rockers, and it's the Voodoo Brew, and I also have the Eye of the Hurricane.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, so yeah, grab some for the holidays. I mean, it really tastes fantastic. It's really good.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm very happy because I've been wanting to do this for many years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
A lot of
Robert,
people do. Yeah.
I just want to say to you, Robert, you know, I want to wish you the best of luck. And I don't know if you know,
Thank
I'm
you.
actually the president of a record company too. So you get a new album coming out, reach out to us. You never know. You know, we're a United States company. We're Fire Rock Music Group. So
Oh, right.
we're signing a lot of bands right now. So
And
we'd
you know,
love to-
I'm also working with other bands as producer and writer.
Yep. Send
And I'm
them
going to
over.
start working also with a very young band. So if you ever need like young talent,
We're always
uh,
looking. We are looking
for
for
producing, but I love being on stage. I love, hanging out with my fans and friends. And
Yeah.
so I love to tour. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Well, we've recently signed 15 new bands. So we're still, that's just the beginning. We're looking for a lot of bands. We're signing.
Send me your email then, direct email. Do I have that?
Well, I'll tell
I
you
don't
what,
know.
Robert, I can, if it's all right with you, Robert, I can
Yeah.
give Tom your email. You gave it to me, so I can forward. that to
Excellent.
him.
Sounds
Tom.
great. All right, guys. It's been a lot of fun covering
Yeah,
everything.
Robert, the interview we just did should be going up in the next couple of days. I'll let you know once it goes up, okay? And feel free to share it.
All right. Sounds
care.
good.
Bye
Good
bye.
evening.
All right.
Have a good night.
You
Night.
too.